In a statement, the Ministry of Finance, Economic Stabilisation and National Policies noted that Sri Lankan government held discussions with 9 members of the steering committee of the Ad Hoc Group of Bondholders regarding its international sovereign bonds over the past 3 weeks, known as the restricted period. The steering committee as a whole comprises 10 of the largest members of the group, with the group controlling approximately 50% of the aggregate outstanding amount of international sovereign bonds. Sri Lanka was joined by its legal and financial advisors Clifford Chance and Lazard, while White & Case and Rothschild & Co. participated as legal and financial advisors of the restricted members of the steering committee. The ministry stated that despite constructive discussions, the parties did not agree on restructuring terms. During the restricted period, Sri Lanka, the steering committee and its advisors met during a 2-day working session in London on the 27th and 28th of March this year to discuss the group's latest debt treatment proposal sent to Sri Lanka's advisors on the 11th of March 2024, which is known as the group's March proposal. Before the meetings on the 25th of March, Sri Lanka, through its advisors, sent its own debt treatment proposal to the group's advisors. However, the proposal was rejected by the steering committee. During the meeting, the ministry stated that the primary basis for the discussions would be the group's March proposal, which outlined a macro-linked bond, which is a debt security with repayments linked to the issuing country's GDP. The Ministry of Finance stated that discussions revolved around 4 key features of the macro-linked bond, of which the first was that the baseline parameters of the instruments proposed by the group were calibrated by reference to the group's alternative baseline, not Sri Lanka's IMF-supported program's baseline. The second was a structure requested by Sri Lanka providing greater protection to the island nation if it falls short of the IMF-supported program's GDP projections. The third area was a trigger test based on interest rates for making upward or downward adjustments in the macro-linked bonds. The fourth and final area of discussion was Sri Lanka's request to the group to consider a lower bondholder allocation if the country outperforms the IMF-supported program's GDP projection. Throughout the meetings, the ministry stated that both Sri Lanka and the steering committee agreed on items 1 and 2 on condition but expressed reservations regarding the structure of the macro-linked bond trigger test and the cash flows associated with the baseline and upside scenarios. Meanwhile, the steering committee suggested the possible introduction of a governance-linked bond, which Sri Lanka said it would consider subject to being provided with more details of this proposal. Accordingly, those details on the possible structure of a governance-linked bond were subsequently shared with Sri Lanka's advisors on the 3rd of April. Despite the differences in opinions at the last meeting, the Ministry of Finance noted that they look forward to continued engagement in good faith with the bondholders as soon as feasible to reach common ground in the next few weeks ahead of the IMF Executive Board's consideration of Sri Lanka's second review under the Extended Fund Facility Programme with the IMF.